Hi, and welcome to another episode of Mark's Motivational Podcast, another Authors Tuesday episode. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by another great guest, Andrea
Olatunji.
Olatunji. I just don't want to get it wrong. But listen, I really appreciate you coming on tonight to the show. Start the podcast off. I would like to tell the listeners and the people watching on YouTube a bit about yourself and the books you've written would be great. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I was born and raised in Uruguay. For those of you who are not familiar with this little country, it's a small country in South America between Argentina and Brazil. I have lived in the United States for about 20 years. And about 8 months ago, my family and I decided to jump into an adventure and we moved to the Caribbean. We are living now in the Dominican Republic.
Nice.
Which has been an amazing experience. I mean, I always like, learning and connecting with different cultures. So especially having a young child, it's been a wonderful experience so far. And I'm an author of two children's books. In 2019, I decided to publish my first book out of the necessity to have good quality materials in my classroom. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for about 20 plus years.
Okay.
And I've been always in the search for good materials. I was teaching Spanish as a second language. So it was always hard for me to find books that were authentic, written by Latino authors. They were usually translations from other languages, and sometimes the translations didn't make much sense. I also wanted these stories to be validating, empowering for my students, to have some sort of message that would, empower them, and stories where they could see themselves reflected, that had elements of their own culture, or just a nice, interesting plot. I always find that the storytelling was one of my best strategies to teach.
Right.
So it came to a point when I had the time and the energy. I was like, okay, this is the time. Let's publish these books, and that's how it started. So it's been wonderful. It's been an amazing new experience for me because, as I was telling you before we started recording, I knew about teaching, I knew about education, and I knew the elements that I wanted in my stories, but I didn't know anything about marketing. So after, many people think that, oh, you write the book, you publish it, and voila, you throw fireworks, and now you're an author. But no, it comes a whole other world in there when you are, you're, especially in my case, because I'm an indie author, I self-published. So you had to learn a lot about promoting, had to put yourself out there. And, it took me, well, I'm still learning, but it's been a nice opportunity, to learn about marketing and connecting with my audience, from a different angle, not as a teacher.
Yeah. No, that's great. Congratulations on the two books. You showed them to me briefly earlier on. Would you mind just showing for people watching on YouTube the books, please, Andrea? Would be great.
Absolutely. These books are part of a series. I'm working on a series that's called Nuestra Fauna, Our Fauna. So this is the first book, Omar el jaguar, and this is the second, Guillo el armadillo. Both books depict animals that are from Latin American fauna. Brilliant. And they're both written in rhyme. So I find, like rhyme is like, it has that musical element that enables people to, after I read my books, kids start repeating, and that's how they learn it. They learn new words, they learn about the story. So, and both books have nice messages that empower children and validate them. In this one, it's a celebration of our differences. This jaguar learns to play with other animals that at first he thought they couldn't be compatible because they didn't look like him. There's also an environmental element. It happens in the Amazon forest. So it has a lot of opportunities here for parents or teachers to discuss and to talk about with the kids. And here, the second book, Guillo el armadillo, the armadillo, he's kind of an introverted little character that goes through a whole week at school, and the teacher presents different challenges, which he feels he's not capable of doing. Sometimes he can't, because he can't fly or he's too small. So by the end of the week, there's an event that happens that enables him to discover that he has, in fact, a very unique talent. So it's a very inspirational book, talking about that our special talents, what makes us unique, and how we all have a talent, even though sometimes we think we don't.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's brilliant. I love the idea of rhyming it all. Where did that idea come from? That's brilliant.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Mhm.
And have you always written yourself? Where did the journey start for yourself?
Well, not really. I always appreciated the arts. I love literature. I've always been a big reader. I love the visual arts. I also illustrate my books, so
Wow.
that's always been a passion for me. Even though I don't have a formal training in visual arts, but I always appreciated that. But as I was telling you before, I've been a teacher at
Hmm.
heart for most of my life.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, this opportunity just happened, as I said, out of this necessity to provide these elements, these books, these stories to my own students, and then why not to every child, right, in the
yeah,
world.
definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly how it happened. But yeah, it kind of like puts um, several of my passions together. I love
Mhm.
books, I love education, and I love the visual arts. So it was kind of like my canvas also to play there and to finally
Yeah,
have an opportunity to share it with the world. Hmm.
that's great. And because absolutely love the artwork is absolutely brilliant, really, really good. Um,
Hmm.
and you say you self-published. Did you think about going down the other route at any stage, like with a publisher? Did you think about that at any stage?
I did at the beginning. I was considering both
Mhm.
options,
Yeah.
self-publish or going with a publisher. So I explored the possibility.
Mm.
But I don't say that maybe in the future I wouldn't go with a publisher, but at the moment I felt that it wasn't what I was looking for.
Okay.
We, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted in my books and how
Mhm.
I wanted them to be. Like I have one edition of these books that is only in Spanish, and then I have a bilingual edition.
Wow.
But I
Brilliant.
didn't want to mix, for example, English and Spanish together
Mhm.
in the same story.
Yeah.
Some publishers were suggesting that, and sometimes when you go with a publisher, they start they want to add their own elements, or they want to change the title, or they want to change the illustrations. And I was very clear on the different elements and aspects that I wanted in my stories. So I thought, okay, maybe now the best path for me is to self-publish.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, congratulations. Did you find that
Thank you.
difficult as well, Andrea? To get it bilingual. Was that a challenge for you to get the books bilingual?
Bilingual?
Yeah. Or
Not really. I mean, I am a language teacher,
okay.
and I
Yeah.
consulted with people that I trust.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I have, the books edited several times, especially with um, children's books. And I know it happens in every language, but Spanish is very diverse. So
Yeah.
depending on which country you are in,
Mhm.
it can be a complete different language. So sometimes
Yeah.
I would tell my students, especially adults, it's like, you might learn Spanish from me, or you can learn Spanish, the like more like the British way, and then you come to Uruguay, nobody would understand what you're saying. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So yeah, it depends on where you are. We use different words, we use
Yeah.
different terms,
Hmm.
So it's important that you look at those stories carefully, because I'm trying to publish for
Yeah.
a more general audience.
Hmm.
So it has to be like a more standard Spanish, not
Yeah.
specific
Mhm.
local colloquial words or stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, that part took a lot of
Yeah.
revision, I would say,
A lot
a
of
lot
work.
of
Yeah.
reading. Uh-huh. But yeah, aside from that, just making sure that it was, good quality, that were well edited, But you're an author yourself, you know how it goes. And you
Yeah.
read something 1,000 times and then,
Mhm.
oops, there's a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
How didn't you see that? I don't know, but it happens. So yeah,
Mm.
it's like when you hit the button, the final button, like print, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, that's great. No, really what I meant was, is there, you have it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, I take it. You've got the book on Amazon, have you?
Hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, was it difficult kind of, how could I ask you, to work through that way on Amazon to make it bilingual? Is there a way for people to,
Oh,
sorry.
no, not at all. No, I first published my Spanish
Mhm.
editions,
Yeah.
And those, of course, are much harder to market than the bilingual editions because your audience gets, more reduced. But in terms of like the logistics, you mean, of putting the
Yeah.
books
Yeah.
on
Sorry.
these
Yeah.
platforms?
Yeah.
No problem. Amazon is, is a very wide platform right now. They take all kinds of books, and you just have to make sure that you specify when you upload the books.
Yeah.
That okay, this is the Spanish edition, or this is the bilingual edition,
Very good.
and that kind of stuff. But no, that hasn't been too challenging for me, at least.
No, that's great because you get people that be watching this podcast and listen to it. So thanks a lot for explaining that. Like, because like it's all a learning curve when you're first publishing, when you're first self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah. You have to really, find a lot of information. Try to read. Try to investigate before you go for something. What kind of platform is best for you? Because you might hear from other authors like, oh, this platform for me is the best. It's the only one I use, and maybe it doesn't work for me or my type of book. So you really have to look and connect yourself. If I would give aspiring authors some advice, would be that to connect yourself with people like you, like-minded authors. I was blessed to connect with wonderful groups on Facebook. Most of my groups are virtual because I'm kind of like an author of the pandemic.
Okay.
So a lot of my groups are virtual, but it's been amazing because now we are like a close family, and we are authors. I'm in the Dominican Republic, some others are in the States or other countries in Latin America, Europe. So it's been amazing, and there's a wealth of knowledge there. You have a question, you put it in the platform, and you get all sorts of people with different experiences, different types of knowledge coming to you and helping. So that for me has been a life-saving resource.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Like all these groups are sublime. They're so helpful. Really are. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And as well as that, Andrea, would you mind just maybe showing a few pictures of your work in the books, just for people that are watching?
Absolutely.
Thanks
Absolutely.
very much.
Yeah. Okay. So here is the first one, Omar.
Just think they're brilliant.
Great
stuff. Yeah.
I like using, I don't digitize my pictures. That was another thing that I was, again, very clear about, and was part of my struggle trying to, get them traditionally published. I wanted my pictures, to be done by hand. So I use pencil, I use collage, I use paper.
Yeah.
And I like that because it gives it more authentic feel.
Definitely does. Yeah. Brilliant.
When I read my stories to children, children are very curious. So they start looking at things like this. You see that the wrinkle in the paper. I don't know if you can appreciate it there in the screen, but and they start seeing that, and they realize it's paper. So that opens the door for me to get into this conversation. Like, is that paper? Did you do that?
Great
so
stuff.
yeah.
So. Oh, that's brilliant.
And again, all the animals here are from the Latin American fauna, which is pretty rich. This one here has about 11 different animals.
Wow.
There is Guillo. And then,
Yeah, that's great.
And here we have the character of my first book. So kids love to see him like, oh, that's Omar the jaguar. Yeah, kids love finding that. And we learn a lot, of course. I'm an educator, so my stories, my stories bring a lot of elements. The pink dolphin. Some kids don't even know that we have a pink dolphin in this planet. Like, yes, there is one, and it doesn't live in the ocean, it lives in a river. So the blue frog. And when I published this book, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and a lot of teachers, especially like kindergarten, first grade teachers, which is around my audience range, they were just pulling their hair out because they had to go teach online all of a sudden. They had no experience teaching online, and they had to engage 4 or 5 year olds online. And they were like, we were talking with them like, how can I do that? How do I teach a 4-year-old virtually? I mean, how do I engage them for 30 minutes on a computer? So I started providing these teachers with a lot of resources. I created educator guides for the books. So their lesson plans, their project ideas, their questions, guiding questions. And I started doing webinars and workshops with teachers. So that was another door that opened for me, like organically.
Yeah.
And it's been so enriching because I could connect with teachers from another angle, instead of just as a co-worker, I was just sharing my ideas with them, suggestions, and it was fascinating to just be able to help these educators and provide them with something that I created myself that could be so helpful for them. So yeah, that was wonderful.
Great stuff. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It's a very interesting point you bring up, because once you start doing something, it can open your doors to other stuff as well. So I find that great. Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely. You never know. That happens a lot with creative products, right? When you start in getting in your creative flow, you think you're doing something, and then all of a sudden, in my case, it was okay, I'm going to make these books for children to learn Spanish, but the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh, how am I going to publish my books now? How is it going to happen? And enter this panic situation, and then all of a sudden, there was a whole other flow there, a whole other way, connecting with teachers, visiting schools. I did a lot of, during the pandemic, I was online all the time. So I was doing a lot of school visits, and we were talking about the Amazon forest, the animals. We're doing virtual field trips to the Amazon forest and doing crafts with kids. And it was wonderful because it was a very nice way to, fun, to have fun, to play. And forget a little bit that we were all trapped in our houses, on computers.
Oh, it's a big help for everybody there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
in that sense, I can say my books are like an onion. So they have different layers, and you start peeling out. And many teachers came back to me after using these books, and they were like, "Oh my goodness! I mean, we have been using your book for a whole month in a whole unit. We did so many projects with it." So yeah, it's been just fabulous.
That's great. Well done. That's brilliant, because it's great to get feedback like that. When you've first written something to get so much great feedback, that's excellent. Yeah.
It's food for us, I mean, I always tell people, like, please let me know how it goes with you, how you use the book, how it helped you. And it's not just, to raise my own self-esteem. It's like, it's food for me because it tells me what works, what doesn't, so I can continue improving. I do that with my students all the time. I always provided surveys, or just if they were younger, just asking them. So just to test what works and what doesn't, because teaching as well as being an author is kind of isolating, I find. We are with our craft alone, creating, doing this thing, and we think it's wonderful. And then you put it out there, and it's like, oh, no, it doesn't work. So it's so absolutely important to have feedback, to receive feedback, good constructive feedback, from people. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And you've also shared your bio with me as well, which I'm going to share on the show notes for everybody that's watching this. Thank you for sending me that, and I can share the links as well to your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the notes as well.
But absolutely.
So just ask you as well, how long did it take you to write the books? Like, you were working through the pandemic. Did you find that a struggle for yourself during the pandemic, or did it keep you kind of occupied really?
Well, the first book was published in 2018, so it was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That one took me about a year. And what took me the longest was the illustrations, because I do the illustrations by hand. So it's a lot of, like cutting, gluing, drawing. So every illustration is unique. If I mess it up, I have to start again. It can take, it's not like just you click and delete. So that one took me about a year. And then I started working on my second book, and then the pandemic hit 2020. So I was like, for a moment, honestly, I thought my author career was over. I was like, okay, this is it. I know it's not going to happen. I remember having my papers, my illustrations on the floor, and my working area. My son was having classes virtually at home. My husband was working from home. So it was quite chaotic, I guess, like many houses in the, I'm sure many people that are listening to us are like, oh, my house was like that. So I was trying to juggle, the teaching, being a mom, being a wife, being myself, all together in one space. So I thought for a moment, okay, I'm not going to be able to finish this book. It's not going to happen. But then, again, the door opened and it happened. I like working at night,
Okay.
so after putting my son in bed and everybody was gone and quiet, I would come downstairs and get on the floor and I continue cutting paper and gluing and drawing. And that moment for me was kind of like a relief, like a, relaxation, like a mantra, cutting and gluing, cutting and gluing. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I'm cutting and gluing. So all of a sudden my book was done. It was finished. So that took about, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I'm going to write other books, but this book definitely, Gijo, is going to be a special one because of the way it was created and all the questions that went through my head, like most of us, what am I going to do with my business now? What's going to happen in this planet now with this pandemic? So I thought, okay, I don't know, I'm going to publish it, but what is it going to happen? And again, we're here standing and everything's fine.
Exactly. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds like a really good strategy you have there, because I was actually going to ask you that, like your strategy for writing, like because I find that as well, the peaceful time to write is great.
Yeah, and I guess just go one day at a time, concentrate on that one page, concentrate on that illustration, concentrate on designing the title for your book. Don't think about the whole map, because it can be overwhelming. It's so many different elements, so many different factors that it can be intimidating. Many people will be like, okay, no, this is not for me, I'm not going to do it. And as I said, even when the book is ready, published and out in the world, and you have the actual hard copy in your hand, then you realize, okay, now I have to promote it. I have to learn about marketing, and that can be ultra intimidating. Dealing with Amazon alone is intimidating because that's like a giant platform, And but again, you have to go, a little bit at a time, especially if you have other jobs. I published these 2 books being a teacher. And I had my classes to take care of. I have my son, my family, and again, so you have to just go one step in front of the other, a little bit at a time. That would be my advice. And and sooner than later, it's done. You get it done.
That's great advice, because like they really call it chunking it down into small pieces. Like it's because if you think of writing a book, it's like a massive thing. But then if you think write 3 pages a day and think of how much that is in a week and a month, like it builds up. It's good way of doing it.
Yes, absolutely. And also don't be scared. Don't be scared to make mistakes. Like the book is not going to be perfect the first time. My second book had a complete different title. The title was Anita la Mulita, because in Uruguay we call armadillos mulitas, and I call it Anita la Mulita. So it was a female character, and the whole story is in rhyme. So it was all rhyming based on Anita. And then when I started to get it edited, I realized that most countries don't call armadillos mulitas; they call them armadillos. So I was like, oh, okay, so it can be Anita the armadillo because it doesn't rhyme. So I had to change the whole story, the whole story. And again, it's part of the process, and you shouldn't be scared of that. It's part of the creative process. And if you don't put your hands there, if you don't get your hands dirty, it doesn't happen. So you have to be, like a child in that sense, just explore, put yourself out there, and then promoting the book or marketing, the same thing. That was quite a story. I got my books in my car trunk, and I was like driving around the city, going to libraries, going to bookstores, introducing myself. And I remember that one of the first times I went to the library, and this sweet lady, she was like, oh, how exciting, you're an author. Let me talk to such and such. And she's an author. And I was like, oh my God, like the first time I heard somebody calling me an author, I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm a teacher. So, it was quite of a process, but I would, and I'm like quite a shy person. As a child, I was like painfully shy. So for me to get myself out there and say, yes, I'm an author, here's my book, and put it in the hands of this other person, I was like, oh, okay, it's out there, cross your fingers, hope they like it, But you have to do it. You have to do it. And that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you get yourself out there. And then all of a sudden people come and see you in an event, they're like, oh, I've seen your book, or I know who you are. I'm like, oh my God, I want to cry. Wait a second. But yeah, that would be, tip of advice there. Like, don't be scared. If you're launching yourself to be an author, if you want to, especially if you want to work with kids, just put yourself out there and be vulnerable. Be vulnerable because that's the only way.
No, that's really good advice because no, I love that. Love what you said there about going to different bookshops and libraries. You got to do that stuff, or you may as well have the book sitting downstairs in a box otherwise,
Right. But I mean, you have to try. There's no other way. Sometimes, people see authors when they become, like larger than themselves, these authors that publish, like, I don't know, 20 books or more. And they're like, oh my God, how do they do it? Or they're so lucky. People think that it's just luck, or you just were born with that talent, And most of the time it's not like that. Most of the time it's just effort. It's that little daily thing of, okay, putting your son in bed and going back to the living room to work on your craft. It takes that perseverance, that effort, and that's how it happens for most of us. I mean, it's rare that you're born super talented and successful. And that doesn't happen overnight. Most of the time.
No, thanks very much. That's great, Andrea. I love your books. Brilliant. And can I just ask you as well, kind of what keeps you motivated in your writing? Like, if you could maybe say what keeps you motivated with your writing in the books.
Sure. Well, I would consider myself a perpetual learner. I love learning about things. Yeah. So I'm always embarking in something new. I like discovering new things and pushing myself, out of the box, out of my comfort zone, as we say. So as a teacher, I did that all my life. I don't think I taught 2 years in a row the same way. I was always like from one academic year to the next. I was like, oh, what can I do different now? Or what can I bring in? Or what can I change? And, using feedback again to modify things. And personally, I have multiple interests. I always like, I get curious. I love reading and I like discovering new things. So as an author, again, I'm always trying to draw inspiration from children, of course. I think they're a fountain of inspiration. They're so creative, so much energy, and they come up with the most amazing stories, because they are, unlike us, that we have more, restrictions, I would say. We get more like inhibited or more, like, I don't know if I'm going to say that, but kids just say whatever they want. They don't have filters. So they come up with comments and stories, and many times they say something and I go write it down because like, this is a story, this is gonna go farther. So I also find inspiration in nature. I feel blessed that we live here in this paradise. We're in this island now in the Dominican Republic. The weather is gorgeous. You can always step outside, the ocean, the palm trees. So just looking at nature and how beautiful it is, and like it inspires me to illustrate, it inspires me to create, and then just life, just human beings, encounters with people, those awkward moments that we all have. Is like, oh, this is so funny. Oh, it should be a story. Let me take a note. It happens.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, and the students in your school, how do they find your book in rhyme? I'd say that they love the rhyme aspect of it.
They say it again.
When you're reading your stories to your students, how do they find the rhyme aspect of your book? I'd say they really enjoy the rhyme aspect of it, like the way you're.
They like it. They like it a lot, and again, it sticks. So as soon as I read the story, they kind of start repeating it. It's a very repetitive. Just let me show you how long each page is.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically a line,
Great.
or two, and it's very, very repetitive. It goes again and again. So it sticks, and kids start repeating it, and then they see me. One time I was visiting a school and in person this time, and I went to visit a kindergarten class, and then the principal took me around to show me the school. And I saw the same kids later. They were outside during PE, and some of the kids saw me and they were like, hola, Omar, ¿quieres jugar? They were repeating phrases from the book. I'm like, oh my God, already.
Great stuff, yeah.
So yeah, it's fun and it's playful. when I write my stories, I always think about the pagination of the book, because I imagine myself reading the story aloud, and when does the story stop and we go to the next page. So I don't know if you had opportunities to talk to many educators, but as a kindergarten teacher, you know, like one of our favorite moments is when you're reading a story and then you stop. So you close the book or you just leave it there and you're like, looking at you like, so, you know, and you create this suspense, you know, you play with this silence, this moment of pause. And it's just, I mean, for me personally, and this is so much fun. I had a blast just interacting with kids. And then they come the questions, you know, like they come with those weird questions, like, you know, like, wait a moment, and how the jaguars don't live in Africa, and what, and they go with it all over the place with the questions. So yeah, it's very fun to interact with them.
You know, I find it great as well going to schools, because the questions, like you say, are great. The kids ask you about your book, like, you know, and some of them are really, really good questions, like, you know.
Oh my goodness, I have a profound admiration for children. I profound respect, you know, and in fact, I would advise, you know, if you want to write a children's book, please put it in front of children before you publish it.
Great idea.
Right? Just ask friends that have kids, go to the library and ask the lady if you can read the book to them, because nobody's going to be as good as an audience as your actual audience, the kids. So put your book in front of kids, read it aloud to them, and see what happens. You know, look at their reaction. Can be very intimidating to us as an adult, because they're going to throw it. You're not going to have filters again. So if you see their faces frowning, you know, like, okay, that doesn't work. Change that thing. I also use my son. You know, my son was like 4 when I wrote my first book, so it was perfect target audience there. And I would be, you know, illustrating my books and ask him what color should the toucan be? What color should we do this or that? And ask him, you know, because they know, and they have this capacity of seeing details. Tiny little details that we completely neglect. It pops. They will see it. So make sure your book is well edited too. Make sure it's done perfectly, because they will see that mistake. They will spot it and they're, oh, what happened there? That spot in there, that dot, that door, or whatever. They will see it. So put your book in front of kids before you publish it. Yeah, definitely.
And that's brilliant as well. Your kids having an impact on the book as well. That's great as well to have.
Oh my goodness, yes. All over them.
No, and can I just ask you maybe a couple of your favorites as well? I normally ask guests to come on their favorite. Like, who would you have a favorite kind of author or books that have inspired you, Andrea? In your writing?
Well, that's such a hard question, because I'm very eclectic, so I read all kinds of books. In terms of children book authors,
well, it doesn't have to be a favorite, just, you know, one that comes to mind, even, like, sorry.
I'm sorry, I had this terrible cough.
No, you're okay.
One of my favorite authors is Eric Carle, American author Eric Carle. I love his collage. I would say he's one of my inspirations. I like the simplicity of his illustrations and the handcrafted drawings that he does, the collage technique. Like also Tommy DiPaola, he's another American author. Love his illustrations, his stories. There's a Brazilian author, Ziraldo, that I find very creative, super creative brain in there. He comes up with the most incredible stories for kids. Adult books, I love Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Colombian writer. His stories are absolutely incredible. His characters, I read his books and I feel like I met these characters, like they're actual real people, you know, or cities or towns that are imaginary towns, but you can have, they're so detailed. I mean, his narrative is incredible, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a real place or not? I have a doubt now. I have to Google it.
They come to life when you're reading them. Yeah, they come to life when you're reading them. Like,
oh my goodness, the characters, Garcia Marquez characters are incredible. So he's one of my favorites. I like biographies. I enjoy a lot of biographies. I like hearing of people's stories and how they became who they became. So one of my favorite biographies is Nelson Mandela.
Oh wow, yeah,
I
I never
find
get to
him
read
an
that one too. Yeah.
incredible inspirational character there.
Mhm.
So yeah, any biography would grab me. So yeah, I'm very, very eclectic. I like Milan Kundera, Czech writer. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, that's a
all
nice
different
list
kinds
there.
of genres.
Yeah, great list.
Yeah.
And do you like any kind of non-fiction books too?
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorites that I read not long ago is this book called Edge by Laura Huang.
Okay.
Laura Huang, she's in business school, Harvard Business School, but she's Asian American, and she talks about how in an ideal world we succeed based on our actual skills, but in a real world there's other people's perceptions and stereotypes
Yeah.
that can influence that. So you might feel like, oh, I have all this talent, all these skills, and I put all my effort into this and I don't see the results that I want to see. So
Yeah.
in her book Edge, she helps you flip that in your favor, flip those stereotypes and those um, perceptions that other people might have on you based on where you come from or how you look, your identity, to flip that in your favor, right, and use it to your own advantage. So it's a very, very inspiring book. I found it very, very inspiring.
It's
Mm-hmm.
called Edge, is it, Andrea?
It's called Edge. Yeah, her name
Edge.
is
Yeah.
Laura Huang. Huang.
Okay, I must have a look at that.
Huang.
Yeah.
Huang. Laura Huang. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things by interviewing people on the podcast. You get some great,
You get some tips.
great books.
We get to exchange our favorites. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah. No, that
I
sounds really
like
good.
books. Yeah, in terms of nonfiction, I like books that kind of like can help you. You know, not like self-help books, but that they have some kind of teaching. You know, something that you
Yeah.
can apply in your own
Hmm.
life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I like a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
What a book.
Have you heard
Yeah,
about it?
yeah, I love that
Oh,
book. Yeah.
that book is fabulous. It's like
Yeah.
whatever, if you want to stop doing something or take on a habit, I mean, just
Yeah.
he gives you such specific steps on how to do
Yeah.
this. And I
Incredible.
found it fascinating. Yeah, very,
You have
very
a
good book.
favorite part of that book?
A favorite what?
Favorite part of the book that you can remember, like a favorite kind of
Oh,
advice that one of my favorites was do you remember the paperclip thing that you did?
oh yes, 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 yes.
That was
What
great,
was he
wasn't it?
saying? That you should move a paper clip?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was very, like,
Basically what
again,
you were
very
saying was,
tangible.
yeah, when you were like, just say you were going for a business call, like, or whatever, like you were trying to get some business, even selling books, let's say, like and you rang a couple of bookshops or libraries. Each bookshop you rang, you put one paperclip into the empty one, and
That's right.
I
That's
just thought it
right.
was a great great like hint, like, you know.
And it works. It actually works.
Definitely
I
works.
remember,
Yeah.
like, when I read that book, I was struggling to find time to exercise. You know, I was doing so many things, I never had time to exercise. For me, working out is mental health. You know, I had to do it to, I'm a different person when I'm working out.
Yeah.
So I started following his tips, and I started marking on the calendar, you know, like crossing out the days when I was working out.
Right.
And then, you know, by at the end of the month, you always get this perception like, oh, I haven't been working out so much, or not as much as I wanted. And then I would look at the calendar, it's like, oh my goodness, I did it like 3 times a week every day.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, it actually works, and it makes you more accountable. And the visual aspect of it, I think, like the paper clips, you know, you actually see how
Yeah.
many, you know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
it's great.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really was.
yeah. So yeah, I love those types of books. Yeah, with
Yeah,
those.
brilliant. No, thanks a lot for sharing that, Andrea. Brilliant. Yeah, really good. And do you have a favorite
Mhm.
kind of film, favorite movie? It doesn't have to be like, you know, like just one that springs to mind or whatever, you know.
Let me see. I do. I love movies. I love watching movies. Again, biographies. I
Hmm.
like this movie called The Imitation Game. Was
Oh,
about
yeah.
the story of Alan Turing in 1939, the World War II. He
Yeah.
decoded.
So,
He was a mathematician. They hired him.
mm,
The British intelligence hires him to decode the Enigma code from the Nazis. Um, but he creates a machine to decode this thing. I mean, it's like absolutely incredible in
mm,
1930s and 1940s. I'm like, what?
yeah.
Amazing story.
Mm,
And then later on, they find out that he's gay. So
mhm.
they kind of force him to take some medication to kind of heal being gay or die. You know, he died. He took this thing and died because of it. It's like a tragic story, and you.
That movie sounds really good. That you were just explaining.
Yeah, those biographies are always yeah.
Great stuff. Yeah.
I love biographies. And then one of my favorite books, my favorite movies ever is called The Red Violin.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah, the Red Violin. I mean, I always like the idea of storytelling starting with an object, like how an object can tell a story.
Yeah.
And you go in from there. So in the Red Violin is the epitome of that. It's the story of a violin from its creation in the 1680s till modern time, when this violin is being auctioned in an auction house in Canada. So it goes through all the different years and the different countries that the violin went to, and the different people who owned this violin and how the violin affected their lives. It's an incredible story. Incredible. Talking about storytelling based on an object. That's perfect.
Sounds great. Yeah. Do you have, like, because you're into the art, who would your favorite artist be? Do you have a favorite artist yourself, Andrea?
Wow. Again, it's hard because I like so many.
Oh yeah, even like one that springs to mind.
No, but I tend to like most like modern abstract art. I would say in general.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I get inspired by art in all different types of art, but mostly I would say abstract, modern, cubism a little bit. Yeah, but I don't have like a favorite. I would say favorite artist. There's a lot of modern artists that I'm liking. You know, I live in New Orleans for many years, and there's some fabulous artists in there. You know, these super colorful paintings that pop out of it of the canvas. So yeah, but in general, yeah, it has to be more a good mixture. Yeah.
And music as well. Your favorite music to listen to yourself? A favorite artists or bands or music, type of music?
It depends on my mood. It depends a lot on my mood. If I'm trying to relax or fall asleep, one of my favorite things is Native American flutes.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Native American flutes. Yeah, you just go to YouTube and put Native American flutes. You're gonna fall asleep after 5 minutes.
Great stuff. Yeah.
If you want to fall asleep, that's the music. No, it's super relaxing. It's beautiful music, and it has being Native American, it has a lot of elements from nature. So it's beautiful. It kind of transports me, you know. Then I like listening to music when I'm cooking. I like listening to music in general. So it depends on how I'm feeling. It can be salsa. I was a huge fan growing up as a teenager. I love the Rolling Stones and U2. U2 was one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yes. Oh my God, their concerts. I was blessed to see them a couple of times, and their concerts were incredible. Are incredible. They're still alive, poor things. I love U2. I love some rock and roll sometimes. So it depends. It depends. I don't like country music. Sorry, country music lovers, but it doesn't reach me. It doesn't reach me for a reason. I like classical music. I use a lot of music in my class too. You know, when I want to change the mood, the kids are jumping out of the roof, I start putting some calming music, you know. Or in the morning when they arrive, I put like more like a playful music, more lively. So I love the magic of music and how it affects our moods immediately. You know, we tune in to the rhythm one way or another, and it's really nice. I don't like listening to music when I'm creating though. That's interesting, but when I'm writing or if I'm illustrating, I don't. I find it distracting. So my ideal time is like in the middle of the night, I'm alone, total silence, just me and my thing. Yeah, not even music.
Yeah, because that's something I started doing a while ago. Just listen to not with lyrics, but just listen to music, and I found it helpful. Everybody's different, like, but No, that's yeah.
Many people love creating, yeah, with music. I can see that, but for me, it doesn't work. I don't know why. I think I start like the music just takes me somewhere, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like leading my idea instead of just like letting me think. So I need silence.
Yeah. Good stuff. And so what's next for yourself, Andrea? What's next for yourself? Do you have other books you're working on, or is it all going to be children's books yourself?
For now, yes, I'm going to continue writing children's books. When we moved here to the island, I came back to the classroom. I have been working from home during the pandemic, and I came back to the classroom. But in June, when the year is done, I'm going to kind of like retire myself from being in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to try and see, okay, what happened? How did this look in here in a completely different environment? How was this school in particular? How do they work? But I've been teaching for 20 something years, and as much as I love the kids, I feel like everything else around of it is kind of like energy draining, and it takes a lot of my time. And I really want to pursue this passion of mine, that is the writing books. So starting in June, I'm going to be working from home again. I'm going to be continuing with this series and going into other different types of stories too. But for now, children's books. I don't say that I won't write books for adults later on, but for now, I'm having fun with kids and the illustrations, so I will stay there for now.
Right. No, that's brilliant. I really appreciate coming on the show today, Andrea. And your books are amazing. I'm looking forward to picking up a copy for my own son as well. So he'll love that.
Thank you.
Do animals. So thank you for that. Yeah. So thanks very much.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And
I want to hear what he thinks after he reads it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to share all your links and your bio for everyone to check out on the show notes as well. So once again, I wish you all the success going forward, everything you do.
Wonderful.
Okay. So thanks a million for tuning in to today's podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. And it's been nice meeting you. It was a great opportunity to meet you and know what you do on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity to chat with your audience about what I do.
No, you're more than welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks so much. You're very good. And thanks everybody for tuning in to today's podcast as well. Mark's Motivational Podcast, another Authors Tuesday with Andrea. I just don't want to get your surname wrong again. Sorry. Your surname again, Andrea? Thank you so much again, Andrea.
Olatunji.
Thanks.
Andrea Olatunji.
Thank you. Okay, so till next time, take good care of yourselves and good night. Take care. Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.